That's the question.
What's the Fed's true agenda? That's the question.
Yeah, think about it, right? I mean, what do the Feds keep coming out and saying, Brian? We got to control inflation, right? And inflation is coming down, right?
Yeah.
But have they given any indication that they're going to stop? No. Quite the
Well, they
opposite.
did. They did say that they were going to stop raising rates the last time they raised them, or before the last time. They said we're probably, well, they didn't say that. They stopped saying, they took off the blurb that says we're going to continue to raise rates.
Correct.
Throughout the year. So they basically stopped saying
that stance
that's the
away,
plan.
and they said we'd be more responsive to the inflationary numbers. Yet you have some other Fed governors coming out saying, hey, we're not stopping. We're going to keep raising rates. Things aren't going to be cutting down. We're not dropping rates anytime soon. You've seen that, right?
Yes. So now, yeah. So
the question I propose to you is, what is the Fed's true agenda?
My theory is that the Fed's true agenda is to raise rates in order to be able to strengthen the dollar.
And so I concur, but I'm going to take it one step farther. I think they're raising interest rates to contract the money supply. Okay, you don't lend as much money out there. You pull money in. You contract the money supply. It strengthens the dollar, and in turn stops the devaluation of the total world economy.
Right. So I think this has, and again, I'm not an economist, but I think it seems like it has more to do with the diluting of the dollar by printing $5 trillion, and then the what was the name of that group that got together to fight against the world domination of the dollar? Was it BRIC or
the BRIC?
The BRIC.
Brazil, Russia, India, China,
why they put the
Saudis?
Brazil first. Why wouldn't because they don't seem like are they bigger economy? They're not bigger than Russia.
They're a
right?
fairly large economy.
Bigger than Russian economy.
I can't say that. Yeah, but
maybe they should have named it RICOB. You know
I think China's economy was actually larger.
China's a part of it. Should be called like CRIC.
China,
crib.
And I think then it's India. Then I think it's Russia.
That's
then
crib.
I think it's Brazil.
Because Brazil's the smallest one. It should be China, Russia, India, Brazil. Crib.
It just doesn't have a good ring to it, right? Versus BRIC. I mean, that just sounds different.
Yeah, so they're fighting against that, and then they're fighting against the diluting of the dollar.
So what's that tell you about the housing industry?
Well, unfortunately, it means that interest rates are going to stay the same or go up, and housing is currently at the highest level it's ever been when you compare the median income to the median home price.
True that. And which direction is house prices going?
Up.
And why is that?
Because of supply and demand.
Correct. And
so there's like different things.
Right.
They're not all part of the same little like wave. They're not part of the same little flow of like.
So let's talk about supply and demand. Think about it from that perspective. Why aren't people putting their houses on the market?
Well, there's multiple parts of supply. There's people selling their house, but there's also builders building houses.
Correct. I concur with that.
And people aren't putting their house on the market because they are sitting on a 3% interest rate, and they don't want to then take on a 7% interest rate.
Correct.
Because that's about a 50% higher mortgage payment for the same exact house.
And I'll propose one additional step. So number one, they're locked into their rate. They're locked into their payment. Mm-hmm. They're looking around trying to figure out what can they buy, right? Mm-hmm. For the price. Mm-hmm. More importantly, I think they have a question about the longevity of the value of the home in the future. Because of all the negative talk like, the housing market's going to collapse at some point down the road.
That's always been the case, though. Like, ever since I got in the business, there's always people that say, well, I'm not buying a house because house prices are going to go down.
Correct.
There's nothing that says house prices are going – well, there's not nothing. There's always articles on the internet that are very much data-backed driven that say completely opposite things at the same time.
But it's
not in the same article. But what I'm saying is you'll have one article to say we're getting ready to have a crash, and it's like these experts say it, and here's all the 10 reasons why. And then you have the next article the next day, different website says
data,
the opposite thing. No, different
data.
They're all pointing to different things. Here's the reason why is because I look at this trend and we look at that trend, and it doesn't seem like anything that was going to crash the housing market worked or is going to work, because if you were to go back to 2015 and say, write down a list of everything that can crash a housing market. It's like rates going up, a lot of political turmoil, a recession,
Sure.
like lack of houses coming on the
Explosive
market,
inventory. Think about that. That would cause a crash. Like
explosive inventory, the
massive short sales, foreclosures.
all of that. Oh, we've been through
bankruptcies.
all of it, and
Correct.
nothing crashed the housing market.
Exactly.
And the last sort of shoe to drop was going to be two things: interest rates, but interest rates are directly tied to affordability.
So now I'm going to cycle this back to you. Ready? So what do the feds know? They know that their actions really aren't going to have much of an impact on housing. And the house values aren't
Well,
going to
I think they
implode.
have bigger
They have a
concerns.
bigger agenda.
They have bigger
Bigger
concerns.
concerns.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Like they know that it's going to hurt the housing market, which
But
is a
not-
big part of our economy. Is it not somewhere in the terms of like 15 to 30%?
It's 30 plus.
30
Oh,
plus.
Yeah. It's massive because you don't think of just the houses. You don't think the houses being built. You
Yeah.
think about all the industry that supports the houses,
Right.
that repairs the houses,
Yeah.
all the machinery that's in, your washer, your dryer, refrigerator, your
Yeah.
freezers, your microwaves, whatever you're buying
Right.
for the overall home. I think government recognizes that, number one. Then the government also looks around and says, you know what, we're not having as many kids. Maybe we don't need as much housing in the long term in the future. Maybe we're contracting from that perspective.
I don't think that's. I think it's more like, again, I don't think their decisions are based on the housing market. I think their decisions
think
are
it is
based
either.
on crib and
The value of the dollar.
the value of the dollar based on the
Ultimately.
diluting of the dollar.
Correct. And I think they're also looking over all the stability, the supply and demand, just the entire culture. And I'm talking about, we used to buy things from China. You know what? China was the cheapest place to manufacture goods and services. That's all been retracted back. Now we're manufacturing things back in the U.S. We used to buy a certain amount of commodities from Russia, for Ukraine. Think about the grain market, the commodity market. So, I think the feds are looking around saying we need to rebalance the whole world economic cycle. Because if we don't, we're going to have worse issues than what we have. Not just the value is going to drop. We're going to have some devaluation. We're going to have inflation, right? I don't think that's just all the case. I think they're more concerned about the overall issues with starvation, overall with housing in third world countries. They're looking at multiple factors.
You think the Fed is concerned about third world country housing?
I think the feds are, because I think the Fed recognizes that issues in other countries directly impact us.
And that's why I think the crib is the bigger issue. And also the $5 trillion that got printed. That's
They got flushed into the system.
Yeah.
Right. So they can contract the money supply. How do we do that? We raise the rates. They recognize overall, if they don't contract the money supply, then your things that you have are going to devalue. Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not going to be, and this blew my mind the other day. So I'm looking at trucks, right? Just kind of, someone said, oh, you got that 2018 Tundra. It's 5 years old. I'm like, yeah, why? It's got 118,000 miles. It's like solid.
Just getting
It's
started,
pumped.
bro.
Damn right, man. I'm shooting for 300,000. They said you should buy a new one. I looked online, $80,000. I paid $35 for it. I'm not selling.
In 18?
In 2018. Now remember, I'm a
Do you
cheap
have to
person.
roll your windows up by hand?
no, but I only
See?
have one key to the truck.
How
I
many
won't
do you
lie.
need though?
That's all I need, right? But only one door has a lock to it too. So sometimes I do worry a little bit about that. But
Why would
back-
you need to unlock the passenger side door with a key?
What happens if the lock broke in the driver's
Do you
side?
have one of these
couldn't-
things?
No, I don't have a clicker.
They made a car in 2018 that doesn't have a remote
No
unlock
clicker,
button.
no remote.
How
one
much money
key,
did you
no
save
battery.
on that, Tim?
Dude, I spent $35K.
I know, but I mean,
for-
how much did you save on just the clicker though? Because I mean, that's kind of an important thing.
Honestly, overall, if you got the clicker, you had to get a certain package. It was another $2,000 or $3,000, and you know what, Brian, I'm a cheap bastard. Every dollar better speak for itself before it leaves my pocket. You know that.
I can speak for why you would need a clicker. So do you lock your car a lot?
Yeah, by hand. I push the little button inside the door window. I close the door. It works. It's a win-win.
But I'm saying you get out of your car and you put the key in and you lock it and then you walk away.
Yeah. Why not? Do you know in the
Depends on
olden
where you live.
times-
Depends on where
Yeah.
you work. You know what I mean?
Model
Like,
Ts, did they have clickers? No. It still got you from A to B, right?
I don't think they had locks either. You could
They
probably
did.
just open, and you could probably just start. I don't even know if they had keys. You could
Hey,
probably-
cranks in the front. Remember?
Right, yeah, you could just turn on anybody's car and drive it away.
But so let's talk about what the federal government is doing. It's almost like they're taking liquor out of your parents' liquor cabinet.
Yes.
And speaking of that, I think you have a story about that.
Well, I
don't you?
was trying to figure out an analogy for how to understand this idea of adding $5 billion into the economy. And I really, frankly, didn't come up with a good analogy. I was thinking about when I was a kid, we used to occasionally take liquor out of. So my parents didn't really
Borrow.
drink, but they had a
Right.
liquor cabinet. Well, they had a bar in the basement full of liquor, but they never drank. And they didn't really have parties where other people drank. So we just sat down there for like 17 years.
Well, the booze was going bad. You were just helping them out.
Well, it wasn't until we moved from one house to the other, they had to pack up the liquor that they started to figure this out. That some of the bottles were empty, and then some of them, I don't think they tasted them all, but they may or may not have had it. They might have been more water than they were,
Gotcha.
And
Little brown food
Exactly.
coloring, little
You know what I mean?
water. Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out, like, if you could do a demonstration to show diluting the dollar.
I like that.
You know what I mean? You
You're
could.
diluting your booze.
Well, you could, but the issue is, I guess it works because booze is not 100% alcohol, right? Like it's 80% alcohol, 20% alcohol. Right. So it's like, it's like just adding more water to.
So they watered down the economy.
They watered down the dollar.
Well, I love that.
You know
That's
what I
actually
mean?
that's a great way of looking at it.
So we could say this is the economy.
Right.
This is the Fed, and then they added more water to the liquor so it looks the same, but it doesn't get you as far because your paycheck, you're this guy down here,
Right.
and your paycheck is only this, and you feel like that's all you need to get where you need to go, but now this doesn't go as far. It doesn't fill up as many little cups. Like when you're talking about making your, Toyota payment, the payment
Sure.
on a $35,000 Toyota versus a $70,000 or $80,000 Toyota. And then the other thing is back then they had the 1% interest rates.
Yeah.
Now they don't offer that anymore. I don't think you can get a 0% interest rate vehicle.
There's some
places.
intros, but what they've done is they've just jacked the price to absorb the interest.
Okay. I mean that's
They
the thing.
packed it in the back end. I mean, that's all it is. But think about, so what are they trying to do now? They're trying to contract or squeeze that bottle, right, to return to some better purity of the dollar, so that dollar now, when you do receive it, still continues to go farther and farther and farther.
They're trying to distill the water out of it and get back to the liquor.
There you go. So what do we need to do? Guys, everybody out there, we need to help support the booze industry. I want everybody going out there, getting themselves a handle. I think it's what they call it, a half-gallon thing, right?
I learned that the other day, that they call it a handle. I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either. I talked to some college kids. They're like, yeah, we got a couple of handles. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Speaking
Is
of
that a
which,
half gallon? Because that's where they have the
That's a
handle.
half
But then
gallon.
I
Yeah,
thought
handle.
a handle was a fifth.
No, handle is a half gallon, brother.
Okay.
It's big. It really
So,
is.
All right.
So I'm sitting in my car. I'm driving up to the Chinese restaurant. I'm getting some Chinese food for my wife and I, right? I got my Shield Mugu Gai pan. I got chicken hunan, some egg rolls. I'm like fired up. I'm going to get some food. Pull it in. I look to my left. There's these two women in this car. And the one's drinking a handle. She's got a whole freaking, she's like, ah. I'm like, what the hell
She's
are you
drinking
doing?
out of
She's
the
drinking
bottle?
out of the bottle.
Out of a half gallon?
Out of a half
That's
gallon.
commitment.
But then what it made me realize is,
Are you
going
allowed to
back
do that when you're parked?
Well, I don't
What if
know.
the car's not running?
The driver wasn't drinking, but the passenger was. But my point is was she so diluted, like the dollar has begun, that now she needs even more?
People who drink handles don't dilute their drinks. They just
They need more and more, just like the dollar. So what's the Federal Reserve trying to do? Trying to contract the dollar, right? Contract the money supply.
So ultimately, it's a good thing, but for the housing market, it doesn't seem like there's going to be relief for buyers.
Correct.
And just I'll leave you with this literal situation that happened to me literally less than 24 hours ago. I was helping a buyer buy a house in Essex or whatever's near Jessup. Is that Elkridge? Elkton?
Yeah.
Something like that. In any case, 5 offers. We were number 2. The winning buyer came in, paid full price,
Right.
Only paid full price, but they paid the seller's closing costs,
Wow.
which is 1.2%.
So
Then
the
they
transfers
paid
and Rex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then they paid the buyers, the sellers' realtor commissions, a full 5%
Wow.
on a $600,000 house.
That's $30,000, dude. I can see
Yeah.
you do numbers. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they paid. Then they waived all the inspections,
And tell me, was there a mortgage or was it
and they paid cash.
cash?
And they were going to settle in 7 days.
So what did that tell you? That told you that their cash, they recognize, is losing value, so they better buy real estate. See, turn it around, man. Think about it. So why is real estate a good investment today?
Well, you're buying it at a fixed amount of money.
Correct.
I mean, another literal
And you're
situation.
buying it for
you
the
know.
value of the dollar today versus
Well,
what the value might
you just
be
sent
in
a
10
guy.
years.
You just sent a guy to me 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
I sat in this chair. He sat right there.
That was
talked.
Forrest, right?
He told me that every year for the past 10 years,
Yeah.
his rent has gone up $100 a month. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but that's what he told me.
That's not bad.
So I told him, and he wants to go rent another house. He wants to rent like an apartment. And I was like, well, listen, let me just throw this out here. What if you bought a house that had, because he like makes a lot of money and he has a bunch of money saved up.
Dude, he makes good money. He has money saved. Probably has
and he
good
has no
credit.
expenses.
Yeah, and very little debt. And
Yeah.
yet, what did he tell you? This blew my mind when you said this to me.
Well, I told him, because he said I can afford up to $1,850 a month or $1,900 a month. And I'm like, man, that's a lot of money for a single guy.
And that was without
who's
the tax
retired.
benefits of a home ownership.
So
right?
I told him, I said, let's look. So all of Charles County,
Sure.
5 houses between
That was it.
1,500 and 1,900. I think
rent.
No, 1,200 and 1,900. There's 5.
Houses.
One
Wow.
of them says only single females. 2 of them are basements, and 2 of them are houses. So there's really only 2 scenarios
In all of Charles County.
in all of Charles County between 1,200 and 1,500
Now, let me
where
ask you a
you
question.
can rent a full house by yourself
Right.
between 12 and 1,500.
How did it define? Never mind. I don't want to go there because I was going to ask something kind of crazy. But
How they define a female? I don't know. I don't know. And the thing is, like, I
you
didn't
feel that way today.
I'm not versed because I don't do rentals, but I'm not versed. I know that an individual can discriminate in certain situations, and
But
that's
could
really
they is the
well, yeah,
question.
you can because think about it, like a single female is allowed to say, I only want to live with another single female inside my house. Like, theoretically,
In theory,
it does
a private
make
person
sense.
should be able to make their own decisions. I don't care who they are, right? To a certain degree.
When it comes to like listing it on the MLS
Sure.
through a real estate agent, I
Right.
think there's like some overlays, and I think I don't know because I don't do rentals, and I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you can't discriminate on race, and I don't think
I
you
thought
can
you
on
couldn't
religion, but I
discriminate
think you
race,
can on
race.
familial status.
Well, single. Okay, I got that part.
Yeah. So single and unmarried, and also like one person versus
Right.
someone who would be renting to a family.
So back to the story. So you went and did the search.
Yeah, so I found 5. There's only 2 houses that you could rent the whole house.
Right,
There was
okay,
one in
okay.
Indian Head, one in La Plata.
Yeah.
And they were not great, So I said, listen, why don't you think about this? Why don't you buy a house maybe $2,500 a month, maybe
Right.
$2,700 a month that has a basement,
Sure.
that has the ability to rent out the basement,
And
you
the mortgage stays the
clearly
same.
see
Right.
that these basements are renting between $1,500 and $1,800 a month. So even if you got a small basement and rented
Sure.
it out for $1,200 a month,
Yeah.
or $1,500 a month, and you have a $2,500 mortgage, now you're down to paying $1,000 a month
Right.
versus paying. He wanted to pay $1,900, and now you're only paying $1,000. Maybe you take that extra $900
Sure.
because he had a bunch of savings. So God forbid his dishwasher breaks, he can afford to fix it. What if he took that extra $900 and applied it towards the principal every
And knocked
month?
it out even faster.
It would be
yeah.
like way faster.
Gold is what that would
So
be.
I said, in
Yeah.
15 years from now you're going to own that house outright.
Right.
And now you can, like, the rents also, he said the rent went up $100 a month the past 10 years. Now, instead of renting the basement for $1,500, maybe you rent it for $2,500.
10 years from now, right? Okay.
Yeah, or
Okay.
15 years from now. You've now paid off the mortgage, and now you have a $30,000 income that
And how did he respond? I want to know, what was his reaction?
He said that he wants to go look at the apartments because the apartments aren't on the MLS, and that he might come back if the apartments aren't available.
Wow. But I think overall people don't have the right perspective anymore. There's a certain amount of concern about the housing industry.
I don't think that's what it was. I think for him it was he didn't want to deal with the hassle, and it's the idea of taking the risk.
Okay, I can see the risk part, and society right now is so stressed out. People
Well,
don't
he
wanna
was
take
a
any
he was
other
a he was a
burdens.
guy that probably didn't take any risks in his life at all. He seemed like a very
Did he have a dog?
safe guy. No, well, I don't know. He didn't.
didn't
He
go
didn't
deep.
have a what do you call it? He didn't have one of those dogs. What do you call the dogs people have nowadays when they go into stores, like a safety dog or whatever?
Service dog.
He didn't have a service dog.
Okay, well, I'll give you that.
But he probably, I mean, if he's renting an apartment, I'm thinking he might not have a dog. That's the other problem. You're trying to rent a
Pets.
freaking
Sure.
thing and you got a pet. Good luck.
Oh, yeah. So back to, what do the feds know that we don't know, Brian? What is their agenda?
Probably a lot, and probably things that they're not telling us, and ultimately we can't do anything about it. So
And you nailed it right there. We can't do anything about it, but keep moving forward. Remember, during the Middle Ages, what did people think? The world was going to
yeah,
crash, right? But did it? No, right? Think about all the different periods in time where things were down. They always came back up, right? And so maybe that's the perspective we have.
maybe not in your lifetime though. I mean, they might be going down for like 200 years. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't know how long you're going to live anymore.
I mean, look
in
at the
this day and
Dark
age,
Ages.
right?
Like there was times in when the pyramids were around
Sure.
where like people were thriving. They had technology that they still don't even have today.
You can't figure it out.
And
How
then they
did
went
get those
down
blocks up
for
there?
like thousands of years, and then we've come right back up, but we might go back down for like a long time.
Enjoy your stay, right?
Eat, drink, and be merry.
Eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah.
Have faith.
Have some kids.
Have some kids.
You know?
Help support Social Security, because I'll be kicking in on that in another 10 years. Come on, man. One day at a time, Brian. That's all we
right.
can do, man.
That's right.
All right, brother. Till
All right,
next
Tim.
time, man. Talk to you.